everyone. Thanks for logging on to CBSColorado.com. Time now for a few extra minutes with the one and only voice of your Denver Broncos, Dave Logan. And Dave, we had such a great show on Xfinity Monday, but I didn't get to ask you who you got winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, boy. I am pulling for San Francisco. I'd like to see Kyle win one, and John Lynch and Bobby Turner, the running back. And there are several guys out there that have either Denver Broncos connections or the city of Denver connections. So I'll pull for them. I have great respect for Kansas City and what they've been able to accomplish 4 times in the last 5 years they've been there. And I made the comment on the air, you know, in the day of gambling now in the NFL, you can go broke betting against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I probably, in all honesty, as I sit here tonight, would lean to Kansas City winning, but I'm rooting for San Francisco.
I want to dive into San Francisco because you talked about those connections, but first with the Chiefs. And you look at all season long, everyone was saying this is the year to catch the Chiefs. Then all of a sudden the postseason comes on, they're playing their best, and Patrick Mahomes has got a great defense this year. Is this one of the more potent teams, even though they maybe didn't look it in the regular season?
Well, I think as good as his defense is, that makes this team even tougher to beat.
Yeah.
They're really good. Very fast on defense. He hasn't had that historically in Kansas City. But I think what strikes me about him, and one of the things that makes him difficult, he identifies what you are in a pre-snap way as good as any quarterback I think we have playing today. So Baltimore, for instance, had the #1 defense in the league, but they were primarily a zone defense. And if he understands that, and he's got a guy like Travis Kelce and receivers that are smart and understand zone concepts and when to sit down and make themselves available to the quarterback, he's very tough to beat. He doesn't make bad reads. Very, very infrequently will he do that. So San Francisco, by and large, is a zone team in the back end of the defense. So I think they're going to have to hope that they can pressure with 4, something they have not been very good at in the last 5 or 6 weeks for whatever the reason. But that, to me, if they can't pressure with 4, it's going to be a long night for San Francisco.
Very interesting. A little insight here. I'm probably going to steal that during the week. So,
feel free to.
I knew that. Pressure with 4. When you look at San Francisco, of course, like you mentioned, there's so many ties. But we start from the top. You got Mike and Kyle Shanahan. You obviously worked with Mike for such a long time when he was in Denver. Similarities between the two, differences. What do you see with him and Kyle?
Oh, I think similarities. Mike was my receivers coach my last year. Mike's first year in the NFL was my last year in the NFL, and he was a receiver coach here in Denver. So I've known him and gotten to know him, have such respect for him. They're both very driven. They're both exceedingly bright, and both uber competitive. And I think when you look at Kyle and you look at how he structures his offense, and in particular the running game, it's as creative and sound as any running game that we have. I mean, Mike McDaniel's the head coach of Miami. He was the run game coordinator for Kyle. You see a lot of Mike Shanahan's assistant coaches that have gone on, become successful head coaches, and all of them believe strongly in the running game. So that Mike was the same way in terms of he went about it a little bit differently, but a big believer in the running game to set up your play pass.
When you look at it, there's an opportunity that if Kyle were to win, him and Mike would be the only father-son duo to both win as head coaches. I'm sure they'd both defer it off, say we don't care, but that's got to be a cool thing, you think, deep down for them if they could realize that this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's what drives coaches. I mean, Kyle's still a young coach, 42. Certainly has a lot of years ahead of him. Has made a lot of money, and so if Kyle could win a championship, you know, he wouldn't retire, but he might. Just like Sean McVay talked about with Los Angeles.
Sure.
These guys are, I mean, they trying to find a balance between what that job calls for and having a family with kids and spending time with your wife. Where back in the day, you know, the family sort of took the back seat. Nowadays, and I think it's good for some of these young coaches, because of the money that they've made, they have the opportunity maybe to step back for a year. But to your question, I think it drives Kyle, and I think Kyle knows, hey, my dad won 2. And I'm not going to be able to stand on that same platform until I finally win one.
I love it. I'm not going to keep you all night, but I got to talk a couple more connections. John Lynch, obviously you covered him when he was a player here. Such a stand-up guy. Did you ever say, man, that guy could be a GM that leads a team to this kind of success?
I don't know if I ever said that, but when you're around, I was around John quite a bit. You're struck by people that have a presence and people that are smart. And then you couple that with, and they're football people. If you can find a football person, and John certainly is, and he has a presence about him, and he's really smart, then you could put John in almost any position and he would be successful.
And last one, of course, then we've got Ed McCaffrey and Christian McCaffrey. Obviously very, very different players, but same kind of question with Mike and Kyle. Do you see similarities in who they are or different?
Yeah, I mean, same sort of answer. You know, Christian was as good a high school player in this area as I've ever seen. I chuckle a little bit when I hear announcers calling NFL games talking about him and saying he gets the most out of what he has. I mean, listen, Christian McCaffrey is an elite athlete. He's one of the best athletes we have in the league. Big time fast, tremendous explosion, great vision, powerful. He's 205 pounds. He's a complete back, as good a back as we have. And Eddie, when he played, had that competitive thing that I see in Christian as well. So pretty similar.
I love it. All right, I lied. I said last one. But one last one, obviously, you're still doing such amazing work on the high school scene. When you look at high school and you look at college, how much the college landscape has changed, has that affected you at all with coaching high school and how these guys look at taking their next step?
I'll tell you where it's affected, I think, every high school coach and all high school players and programs. The portal has good and bad, I think, but it's primarily been good for college athletes. I don't think it's right now being run the way that it was initially intended to run. But where it has hurt high school athletes is you've got college coaches that now, instead of recruiting an athlete, maybe they're not the 2 or 3 elite players around, but they're very good, and they're guys that typically over the past years would be recruited. They're not getting recruited because the college coaches will say, I can go out and get a lineman who's already been in college for a year. Maybe he played at wherever, Vanderbilt, and he can come in. He's further along than me taking your high school lineman here. So that's been, to me, that's been a negative. And I don't have an answer in terms of how I see that ending. But right now, it's really put high school recruiting for a lot of kids in a very tough spot.
Interesting. I feel like it's just going to continue to evolve. And, well, you'll be along for the ride more than most. Is leading those Creek Bruins. We love to see it. Dave, thank you so much for all the work you do on the high school scene, calling the Broncos, and everything else you do.
Thank you, Romy.
And thank you for joining us tonight.
Good to see you.
Guys, that'll do it for us. We'll see you next time.